PKK is the Kurdish terrorist, and they are active in North Iraq, and has been supported by the USA.
No, not the PKK.
Supply,
oh, come on.
Supply, even though they had all this, the arms of the after the Vietnam that they got, and then time to time, by the Israeli forces have been, trained, and Turkey lost almost 15,000, more than 15, maybe 30,000 people that, in that area, and still USA is supporting, and they can't do anything. So what do you think about that?
I think that that's completely false. I've been closely involved in that for years, and I think I know the facts pretty well. The U.S. is not supporting the PKK. It's strongly opposed to it. The Clinton administration particularly poured arms into Turkey to try to support their counterinsurgency operations, which were not just against the PKK. They carried out major atrocities all throughout southeastern Turkey in the Kurdish areas. They destroyed, according to the Turkish government, about 3,500 towns and villages, wiped them out, drove out, probably millions of people. I've been there and I've seen it, and I've also seen the slums in Istanbul where the remnants try to survive. The number of people killed, nobody knows, because we don't count our own atrocities. But according to Kurdish sources, it's on the order of 50,000. That's from the mayor of Diyarbakir. Usual numbers given are 30,000. So, massive atrocities. As if you want to read, there's a lot of evidence about this. They happen to have a very good human rights specialist, Jonathan Sugden, their analyst in southeastern Turkey. He has now been kicked out by the Turkish government because he's trying to investigate what's happening. But he did compile very serious detailed reports right through the 90s, every imaginable kind of torture, barbarism, destruction, ecological devastation, huge ethnic cleansing, one of the major atrocities of the 1990s, and so did Amnesty International, so have independent reporters and others. And in fact, in Turkey, there are plenty of people who know about this. I've taken part in Istanbul in protests by leading Turkish writers, academics, artists, journalists, and others who are courageously protesting against these atrocities, which is not easy in Turkey. It's not, Turkish jails are not much fun. But they not only protest against them, but they're constantly carrying out civil disobedience against them. I was able to participate once. And it's because they know perfectly well what's happening. Furthermore, they want it publicized. So when I was visiting Turkey, actually to take part in a trial of a publisher who was being sent to jail because he published a few remarks of mine about it, I was just invited all over the place by Turkish television because they wanted it said, and they can't say it. So it was all over the papers and television and so on. I was, in fact, given an award by the Turkish Publishers Association, not because I did anything particularly remarkable, but just because I was saying what they knew and can't say. As the atrocities escalated through the 90s, aid from the Clinton administration increased. In the single year, 1997, 1 year, Clinton provided more arms to the Turkish military than the entire Cold War period combined up to the onset of the counterinsurgency. Well, it took a lot of discipline here in the United States for the press to shut up about this. I mean, here they're talking about, terrible atrocities going on in the Balkans by these bad Serbs and others. Meanwhile, right on the border, how can we stand it if right on the borders of NATO some terrible thing is happening? Try to find an article which said right within the borders of NATO even worse things are happening, and you're paying for it. Not just the United States, Germany involved, Britain and others, but primarily the Clinton administration. That's what was going on there. The U.S. certainly wasn't supporting the PKK. I think you're probably confusing that with U.S. support for also the Israelis for the northern Iraqi Kurds, who are strongly against the PKK. And that's for ugly geopolitical reasons. My guess is sooner or later they're going to be sold out too, as they have been in the past. Remember, the U.S. supported them in the 70s, then decided it's better to support the Shah, and sold them out, and they got massacred by Saddam. That's when Henry Kissinger made his famous statement about how you shouldn't confuse foreign politics with missionary work. So yeah, we sold them out, and they get massacred by our friend Saddam. Who cares? And they're gonna, I think they're playing with fire when they rely on U.S. support. And it's very likely, almost certain, that Israel is up there in the Kurdish areas, because that's a kind of a natural alliance for them, for both of them. So that's happening, but that's not the PKK. Now, it is true that the PKK is in northern Iraq. They are there. The serious journalists who are up there, like Kevin McKiernan, and have been there for years, report that there are PKK bases in northern Iraq in the regions that are regarded as the Kurdish homeland, up in the mountains. They're there. McKiernan reports that he's been there for years, that they just move in and out with everybody else because they're more or less accepted by the Kurdish society as part of them. So they come down from their mountain strongholds and go into the towns and so on. So yeah, they're there. And the Kurds are not going to kick them out. But it's not to say that the U.S. supports them. The U.S. certainly hasn't, and Israel certainly hasn't. Israel's had a long, close, intimate relation with Turkey since 1958. It's, in fact, Israel's second closest alliance after the United States. And it's for good reasons. These are two of the states that are on the periphery of the oil-producing region, along with the Shah of Iran. They were what the Nixon administration called the cops on the beat, local cops on the beat, which defend the tyrants who run the oil production. They defend them from their own populations. They're the kind of local gendarmes. And in that context, yes, there's a close Israeli-Turkish alliance, and it remains. Things have changed in many respects, but not in that respect. So they're the local cops on the beat. Police headquarters is in Washington. There's a branch office in London. That's roughly the way the system is run. And Turkey's been a big part of it, in alliance with Israel and, of course, the United States. So I just don't agree with the facts. I think they're the opposite, and I think they're quite ugly.